AI tools like Midjourney AI are the future of online selling in shops like Etsy and Shopify. Look at these examples here. They are best sellers on Etsy. If you like to create and sell your own AI designs and become a bestseller on Etsy, watch this video. At the end of the video, I show you how you can create your first listing at Etsy. Start selling your AI creations today. In this video, I use my Midjourney AI for my listing on Etsy. You can use any other AI image generator like. Let's dive right in. Before you start listing your first Etsy item, we need to take a quick look at some other tools that will help you on your journey. For this tutorial, I use Canva and Photoshop. You can use any other image editing tools you like. Canva is free to use anyway, and most of the Etsy bestsellers use it for their items and listings. There's another cool thing I like to show you. On my Discord server, you can find some prompt examples of my own AI creations I use in my tutorials and in my social media channels. I add the links in the description below. On my Facebook, you can join my AI group and connect with other AI users and artists around the world. If you don't want to miss new tutorials and tips, you also can subscribe to this channel now. I show you how to create the AI design in a minute, but before we do that, let's take a look at Etsy first. Use the link in the description or simply got to the Etsy website. For this tutorial, we take a look at clip art and coloring book pages, two things that sell very well on the Etsy platform. Take a look at the best sellers. On the Etsy website, type coloring book in the search bar. Then move your mouse to the top right corner and set the filter to top rated. This will give you some examples of the best-selling items on the website. Find a design that looks interesting to you, click on it to open the details page. There are some important things you need for your own listing. You can start your own AI creation in a minute, but before you do that, I recommend to check some important parts as I mentioned before. I call them markers. There are two very important things you will need for your listing you will create at the end of this tutorial. Let's start with the graphics. If you want to make your listing a bestseller, it is not enough to create some cool AI designs. It's also important how you show them to others. A lot of Etsy sellers use Canva for their graphic and presentation on Etsy. Look for a design that you like. Maybe you copy the link or add it to your bookmarks on the Etsy website. It's okay to create a similar design in Canva to make sure your listing can get into the best sellers. There's no magic to it, and it is not rocket science. Just take a look what works and do the same thing. But there is another important point we need to talk about before you create your AI design for your Etsy listing. From the graphics on the left side, now take a look at the right side of the listing you have selected. Some of those listings have a small purple start on the top right. This star indicates that this is a bestseller on the Etsy website. Sometimes you can see a red text above it that shows you how often the item got downloaded in the last 24 hours. Try to focus on those informations before you create your own listing to optimize it for becoming a bestseller too. You are almost ready to create your own AI design and Etsy listing, but let's check this last very important point. On the right side, you also find the title and the description of the selected listing. This is my recommended workflow for your own Etsy listing. Find a listing with the purple star rating, then copy the title and the description to your computer to use it as template for your own listing later down the road. I use Notepad++ for this purpose, but the Windows Notepad or a screenshot work fine too. After that step, you are ready to start with your first Etsy item listing. I put a link in the description for you. Congratulations! You did the first step into creating AI designs for Etsy. Now it's time to get creative. Here is what we do. For this tutorial, I use the coloring book idea. If you like clip arts more, you can watch my tutorial how you can create clip arts with AI tools. But keep in mind, the workflow for creating clip art is much more complex than the coloring book workflows, so for the moment, I stick to that one. Time to get creative. For a coloring book listing on Etsy, I recommend creating at least 10 to 20 images and upscale them if you have this feature available. You can take a shortcut and use the prompts from my Discord community. Just use the link in the description if you like to do that now. Maybe you like to share your own prompts in the comments below so others can try and use them. I don't record the Midjourney creation for this tutorial. If you like to see my Midjourney creation workflows, please check out my other videos. If you have created at least 10 AI images for your own coloring book idea, we now can move on to the next step. Otherwise, just pause the video, add it to your bookmarks, and get creative. When you have finished your designs, just come back here. I saved my designs in a separate folder for easy access. You are almost there. Just a few steps left to your first listing on the Etsy website. So what's next? This step is optional, and you can skip it if you like, but I strongly recommend not to do that. For the next part, you need an image editing software like Photoshop or Affinity. Why you need to do this? The answer is simple. This step will help you provide high-quality items for your future buyers. So let's start preparing the final designs for the uploads. I use Photoshop for this. In Photoshop, I use a square setup. You can use other setups if you like, depending on your AI designs. In my case, I want a square coloring book sheet. This way, I also can sell them on Amazon KDP, for example, but that's a different story to tell. Here are my settings. I use 3000 by 3000 pixels and 300 dpi for each of my coloring book sheets. The workflow for a coloring book is quite simple, and it needs almost no post-work on the final graphic designs, like in the clip art creation process. You don't need any transparency backgrounds too, so it is easy and a great starting point if you never created items for online shops before. Place your graphic on the canvas in your image editor and save it as a PNG file with 300 dpi. Do not upscale your image inside the application. You need to upscale the images before editing so they are big enough to work properly. Repeat the process for any AI item you like to add to your final coloring book and keep them in a separate folder. In my case, I just show how it is done with my upcoming comic art coloring book. If you like to see the final process, comment below, please. As you can see, it's really simple. Open your application, set it to 300 dpi, and place your graphic. Export your graphic as PNG, and then rinse and repeat. That's the main part, but there's one thing missing. Let me show you. Some sellers also provide a PDF with all the graphics as a digital coloring book. You do not need to create it if you don't like. For this tutorial, I just duplicated my graphic inside Photoshop to demonstrate how it looks when you have created all your final AI graphics for your coloring book. Once you have finished this step, just export your whole document with all your graphics as a PDF file. It's also possible to sell a real physical coloring book as a paperback version on Amazon KDP. If you like to see a tutorial on this process, let me know in the comments below. Thanks. When you have exported all your files, you are ready for the last step before you create your first listing. We will use Canva for this. Well done. You are awesome. Let's jump back to Etsy for a moment and choose a design we like. To not overcomplicate things in this tutorial, I pick a very simple one. Feel free to select a more complex design if you like. This depends on your Canva skill. This is not a Canva tutorial, so I stick to the basics we need to cover for our item. I choose this design you see here. You might have seen I used a design that was marked as bestseller. Sometimes the very simple things work best. Let's open Canva. Here is a little tip for you. If you type mockup in the search bar, you also can use those templates as your starting point. You don't need to reference the design like I do here, but for starters, this can be a lot easier. I create my design from scratch. Open the document setup, and let's create a fresh document we can work with. You can also upload your final graphics now if you like, but I show it anyway in just a moment. Let's go. You can use your own setup for your final mockups. In this tutorial, I like to use 2454 by 2020 px. It's up to you, so feel free to adjust it to your liking. I use the free version of Canva, and we do not use any Canva Pro stuff in this tutorial. Of course, you can do this if you have a Pro account already. Finally, I start by renaming my file, because sometimes I like to reuse my Canva documents in another project. As I said, this is not a Canva tutorial, since there are a lot of tutorials for Canva out there. I just get you started here. If you take a closer look at most of the seller designs for clip art or coloring books, you will discover that a lot of them use some kind of watermark or any kind of method to prevent others from using the design without buying it. In our example, some font and design elements are placed above the STL graphics. Others use semi-transparent text overlays. Others don't use any watermarks at all. It's up to you to decide that. But anyway, the process is quite simple. Start by creating a background. It's a good idea to upload all your final graphics at this stage. Now add some graphics and begin your layout. You can try to copy your reference design as close as you like, or you can come up with another totally different idea. Have fun and be creative at this point. Here's another tip. A lot of sellers also use different page designs throughout the mockup process, and at the end, some of them also add some details about themselves, like your Instagram page, for example. Photos also are often used by some of the best sellers. This helps create trust and also helps if you like to build any community around you and your brand or items. I only want to show you a starting point. I speed up the process how I create my final mockup design in a time lapse so we can move along to the last part, creating your first listing. Enjoy being creative for a moment. You can see in the time-lapse process that I tried some different things. Also, I noticed I had a graphic duplicated in my mockup, so I deleted it and used another one. Double-check your own mockup for issues before you download your pages. I used different colors to make it more interesting. A good workaround is to use at least 2 different fonts in Canva. I used 3 as far as I can remember. During the creation process, I decided not to stick to close to the reference design I selected at the beginning. I am pretty happy with the result so far, don't you think? Let me know in the comments, please. Thank you. Take your time creating your mockup, since it will be the first thing your customers will see when they select your listing. Also, it is one of the main factors for buyers. Some of the sellers add a short description how everything works, so I decided to do this too. I also included some information about the format and the resolution of the graphics. It also helps a lot to include that this is only a digital item and there is no physical product after purchasing the item itself. It's up to you to include whatever information you want your future buyers to know. Keep it simple. There is no need to overthink this. If you have a hard time creating your first design, just jump back to Etsy and look for a simple design you like. Start to recreate this reference design and you are set. The more items you list, the better your own designs will get. It's a learning process for all of us. I added a photo of myself at the end and a little thank you text for those who like to buy the item. You can upload up to 10 of these pages for your listing. It's also possible to create a video which might sell your item even better, but for this tutorial, I do not cover this element. I did not create all 10 pages for this mockup. You might have seen I used 7 in my time-lapse, but maybe I create some more during the recording breaks. Once you are happy with your pages, download all of them to your computer, and you are finally ready to create your first listing. For this, you need your account on ETSY. I do not cover that in this tutorial. If you need help, use my Discord, social media, or write a comment below. Thank you. This is it. Now you can create your first listing. Open your Etsy account page. On the left side of the page, you can see the Articles feature. Select it and open the Articles page. Now you can select a new article on the top right corner. Click on the button to begin. Fill out the first form to start your listing. Since you like to create a digital item, you now can select that. It is not a physical item. You also need to specify if you created the item, when you created it, and if it was done with the help of AI. If you struggle to fill in the form, just rewind the video and watch this part again until you got everything in place. Once you're done, we can proceed with the next step. It will be the title, the description, and all the upload stuff. When you have finished these steps, your item is listed and online. You can then start all the promotional stuff and start selling right away. Let's do that now. The next thing you need to fill in is the title. This is a very important step. The title helps to display the lighting to the buyers. In order to work, you should add the most keywords possible for your item. You can find good titles by looking on other seller items. Choose a best-selling item and take a look at the title. Copy this title to your desktop and paste it back into your own listing. The only thing you need to do now is to adjust the title you have copied to fit your own item listing. Piece of cake, isn't it? You can always come back later and readjust the title, your description, and anything else in the listings you have created before, so don't overthink this. The main keywords, and it should be okay. In my example, I use the keywords Viking, PDF format, and others. You can always rewind this part until you are happy with your own title. Take your time. The better the title, the faster you can start selling your AI creations. The next thing is the description. Let's repeat the steps here in a time lapse. Go to Etsy, find a good description. We did that already at the beginning of the tutorial, remember? And passed it in your listing. After that, adjust it so that it fits your item and your listing perfectly. Remove things you dislike and add stuff that is missing here. Almost done. Keep going. I pasted a description into the listing form and adjusted it to my liking. I removed some things I don't need, and I added some stuff that was missing for my own item. Again, you can always come back at any time and adjust the description to your liking, or to remove any typos, add updates, and whatever you might need. Fill out the rest of the form, add your price, and all the missing parts. If you get stuck and need some help, come back here and ask in the comments, on my Discord, or on social media. I try to help you create your final listing. I show you how to upload the final items we need to provide, and then your first listing is ready to be published. Before I upload all my files into my listing, I provide all my infos I like to add. In short terms, I finish all the text details before I start uploading my files. When you set your digital item during the creation process, the Upload Files section will be enabled. As you see in a second, it consists of two parts. The first part will be the Canva design pages you have created. The second part will be the upload of the actual files for your buyers. The Tags section is the part where you can help Etsy to show your listing. If you struggle to find your tags, go back to the website and look for tags other sellers have used. If you are not sure which ones you can add, feel free to ask. Let's upload the files and publish the listing in the following step. As I mentioned before, the upload consists of two sections. Section 1 is the graphics or mockups you like to present to your buyers. Add your Canva and graphic design here. Please take care of the limits. In the graphics section of the upload process, you can add up to 10 graphics. The upload for your selling items is restricted. You can only upload 5 files. Most sellers provide zip files here. You only can upload zip files up to 20 megabyte. For further information, check the Etsy help files and documentation or ask their support team. I had an upload issue I fixed during the recording break and added all my uploads to the listing. That's it. Congratulations. If this was helpful, click subscribe. Happy publishing.